What was supposed to be a fun for this young lady night out has unfortunately ended like this, with her stuck in jail, forced to wear that degrading striped jumpsuit, securely cuffed behind her back, and charged with a DUI and resisting arrest. She messed up, and unfortunately for her, she is going to get punished for that, no matter how much she regrets her stupid decisions. One night that changed her forever. It was supposed to be a fun night out. Music, laughter, flashing lights, and the thrill of freedom after a long week. But somewhere between the noise and the choices, she crossed a line she could never uncross. The next morning, she woke up to silence. A silence that felt heavier than any sound she'd ever known. Her phone buzzed with missed calls. Her friends, her parents, her boss, all asking the same question, what happened? And the truth was simple. She made a mistake. A big one. Driving after drinking. She thought she was fine. Everyone always thinks they're fine, until the flashing red and blue lights prove them wrong. Now, she faces consequences that go beyond fines or community service. It's the weight of guilt that stays, the way people look at her differently, the opportunities that quietly fade away. But she doesn't let it break her. She learns. Weeks later, she stands before a group of students, nervous, humble, and honest. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was in control. But one mistake can rewrite your whole life. Her story becomes a warning, not born from shame but from strength. Because sometimes, falling apart is how you learn to stand up stronger. This young lady may be nowhere near as tall and strong as her boyfriend is. But of course that does not mean she can just punch him whenever she is angry at him. Violence towards your loved ones is always unacceptable, even when you don't pose much of a physical threat. So unfortunately for her, she is now under arrest and charged with domestic abuse. She has no clue yet how harsh of a punishment she is facing, but these high-security restraints certainly tell her the justice system is taking her actions very seriously. Only 2 more weeks and this woman's 5-year probation finally would have been over. But of course she just had to mess it up and get herself in trouble right AR the end. So now here she is, in the custody of these officers, with her hands tightly cuffed together behind her back, and feeling absolutely miserable about the prison time she will have to sit out now. Make it long story. 2 weeks away from freedom. She was so close. Only 2 more weeks. 14 quiet days, and 5 long years of probation would finally be behind her. 5 years of proving herself. 5 years of staying clean, keeping a job, attending every meeting, every check-in, every test. She had rebuilt her life from the ground up, piece by fragile piece. And she was proud of that. But sometimes, life doesn't fall apart in a single moment. It slips. One small, reckless choice, one moment of frustration, one night when emotions went over reason, and suddenly, everything unravels. That night, it did. A heated argument with an old friend. A drive she should never have taken. A decision made in anger instead of thought. By the time she realized what she'd done, it was too late. Now, sitting in the quiet of a holding room, she feels the weight of it all pressing down. The regret, the disbelief, the unbearable thought of losing everything she worked for, all because of one mistake. Her lawyer's words echo in her head. You were 2 weeks away. Just 2 weeks. She closes her eyes and exhales, wishing she could rewind time, wishing she could tell her past self to just stay home that night, to remember how far she'd come. But time doesn't give second chances so easily. In the days that follow, she starts to understand something deeper. That true freedom isn't just a court's decision. It's a mindset. It's learning from failure and refusing to let it define you. She knows she'll face consequences. But this time, she won't run from them. She'll face them head on, not as a victim of her mistakes, but as someone determined to rise beyond them, because this isn't where her story ends. It's where the real fight for redemption begins. Although she knows the charges she is facing won't get her locked away for all that long, of course it is still devastating for this young lady to have to stand trial for prostitution, to have to appear in court like this. forced to wear that degrading jail uniform and helplessly locked in cuffs and chains, with several cameras all filming and photographing her during the most humiliating moment of her entire life. It makes her feel so utterly miserable and pathetic, especially because she knows this will haunt her forever. From now on, whenever someone Googles her name, this image of her will be the first search result. Every single employer or date or whoever will know what she did and that she got incarcerated for it. And unfortunately for her, there is absolutely nothing she can do about it. She must simply accept that as a consequence of her own actions, no matter how much she doesn't want to. This young lady had asked the judge to sentence her to 3 years in prison instead of 3 years on probation, and she is very grateful he granted her wish. Of course, all her family and friends declared her insane for that request. Being on probation is obviously much preferable to being stuck in prison. She has even said so herself as well. But she is still confident this is the right choice. She believes so because she has seen her older sister experience both probation and prison. So she knows how hard it can be to meet all your probation conditions. Because while your life is dictated by strict rules, not being locked up gives you the illusion of freedom. This illusion can make it very tempting to break those rules. And of course, actually doing so will result in you still going to prison, without credit for any of the time you already spend on probation. That is why she prefers to just get it over with and go to prison right away. To let herself get constantly cuffed, chained, ordered around, patted down, and strip searched. It is degrading, but at least it truly makes you realize what situation you're in. It does not let you forget that you have done something wrong, and that you must now prove yourself. It coerces you into obedience and good behavior, which will in turn get you your freedom back sooner. Of course, it was still hard to make this decision. Giving up her freedom for the next 3 years with the possibility of an early release instead of remaining free with the possibility of still getting locked up anyway. She certainly had to think about it long and hard, but ultimately she is very happy with her choice. With her hands tightly cuffed together behind her back, this young lady is being forced to sit on the wet, dirty pavement until a police car is ready to come take her to jail. Not because she knowingly and willingly broke the law, but simply because she was jogging with her earbuds in and therefore did not hear these cops telling her to stop. So then they ran after her and grabbed her from behind, which startled her and made her pull away her arm. And before she knew it, she got tackled, handcuffed, and told she is getting charged with evading police and resisting arrest. Of course, there is no way she will actually be found guilty on either of those charges, but unfortunately for her, these cops just do not care. They already made the decision to arrest her, so now they are taking her to jail no matter what. Hands against thee and spread your feet. That is always a command these ladies get when they are getting searched, whether they are getting sniffed by dogs, being thoroughly frisked, or having their fully naked bodies inspected. It is a degrading and invasive experience. And of course, to make it an even worse experience, there is always at least one guard condescendingly telling them all of it is for their own safety. It makes them feel so miserable, but unfortunately they have no choice but to just comply and endure it. Enduring what she shouldn't have to. The walls were cold, the lights harsh, and the silence heavy. Every sound echoed. Footsteps, voices, doors closing. She had never felt so small in her life. Every time someone gave her an order, it chipped away a little more of her pride. The words were sharp, commanding, mechanical, like they'd said the same thing 1,000 times before. But to her, each command felt personal. It reminded her that in this place, she didn't have a name, only a number. She tried to hold her head high, but humiliation has a way of sinking in no matter how strong you are. She kept thinking about how quickly everything had fallen apart, how she went from freedom to this, from laughter to silence. There was no kindness here, no space for tears or explanations. Every process, every rule, was designed to break the spirit and test how much a person could endure before giving up, but she refused to break. Inside, she promised herself something. You can take my pride. You can take my freedom. But you will never take my will. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, she found her own strength, not loud or angry, but quiet and steady. She started helping others who felt lost. She listened, comforted, shared stories, and rebuilt her sense of humanity, one small act at a time. By the time her release date came, she wasn't the same frightened woman who had walked through those doors. She was someone who had looked despair in the eye and refused to let it win. And as she stepped out, the sunlight felt different, warmer, freer. Because sometimes surviving isn't about escaping the storm. It's about learning how to stand tall in the rain.